Hi, Joelle.
I'm here with Fozia Morgan, and today we're going to talk about Fozia and what she does. She's a nutritionist and an esthetician, but we're interested in knowing a little bit more about Fozia and her passion and how she got into nutrition, and speak a little bit more about that. So I have a few questions lined up that I wanted to ask you today.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
here we go. So first question, at what point in your life did you decide that this was something you wanted to do? Did you always know that you wanted to do something like this? Or was there something that triggered you? And
Yeah.
how did you get to this point, to where you are today?
Yeah. So I grew up with a lot of digestive troubles and acne and hormonal imbalance and depression and anxiety. And I kind of figured out, starting in my late teens and early 20s, that I could really heal my body through food, and that there was a direct correlation between the foods that I ate and my mood and my sense of well-being. I also figured out how to heal my acne that I had. I had really bad acne from the ages of 13 to like 25. So I figured out how to heal my acne through diet and acupuncture and Chinese medicine and all this stuff. And so that basically led me to want to become an esthetician. That was in 2004. So I was in my late 20s, and I was working at Pharmaca Integrative Pharmacy in Seattle. And I found that I was really able to help people who came into the store who said, like, I have rosacea, or I have really bad breakouts, or I break out around my, around my period, like hormonally, whatever. And I just had this knack for knowing what products that they should use, and also supplements that would be helpful, and then kind of saying like, hey, have you thought about like diet-wise, and not giving advice, but just kind of having a conversation. And so then I decided to go to school to become an esthetician, because I wanted to do it full time, and really kind of had a vision for having a practice. So I did that. I graduated in 2005, and I had my own private practice in Seattle. I closed it in 2008 because we were actually trying to get pregnant, and I had a really hard time getting pregnant. I was really exhausted because I was working so much. I was booked out a month in advance with my facials. I was doing 16 to 20 90-minute European facials every week. And I had a chronic back pain, and I would just spend like much of the weekend on the couch because I was so tired. So I decided to close my practice because I really wanted to focus on having a family, and I did. I got pregnant after about 8 months after that, and then I was a stay-at-home mom. And we moved to Hawaii from Seattle in 2011, and got pregnant 6 months later. And a couple of years after I had my second baby, some girlfriends asked me to start a blog, because they said, you make it look so easy with the way that you cook and you prepare meals for your family, and we want to know how to do that. So I started a recipe blog in 2013, I think it was, maybe 2014. And then I realized that I really had this passion for sharing this information, and just having different health struggles throughout the years with postpartum stuff with my thyroid and chronic fatigue, and again, huge correlation between the food I was putting in my body and the way that I felt. And so then I realized that I wanted to go to school to become a nutrition consultant. So I started school in 2015. My kids were really young at the time, and I did an online program through Bowman College. So it was holistic nutrition. I had a great instructor, and it just was a wonderful program, and it took me about 2.5 years to finish. And I just loved it. I loved working with practice clients. When I was in school, that was a big part of the training. And so I decided, because I'd had a private practice with my aesthetics business in the past, I just naturally kind of started a private practice for nutrition consulting. And so that basically is what brought me to today, just this desire to take all of this knowledge and experience and everything that I've gone through and turn it into a way to really help people, to guide people in their path to health and wellness. And it's very individualized for each person. And so my intention is really to help people tap into their intuition about their own bodies, tap into their innate wisdom. We all have it. Some of us are more in touch with it than others. And so just really working with people to help them tap into that so that they can come up with a way of eating and self-care and movement and all these different ways of caring for ourselves that feels natural, right? Because then it becomes a way of life. It doesn't become this prescription that like my nutritionist gave me or my doctor told me I have to eat this way because I have high blood pressure, you know? Because the more we can trust our intuition and tap into that inner wisdom, the more clarity we're going to have around what it is that we really need to thrive and to feel our very best. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
I really believe that the health and wellness really starts with that awareness and really asking yourself the question
exactly.
of what is really happening. Why is my body reacting this way? Why has it surfaced on my skin this way? What have I been doing? Have I been getting enough sleep? Have I been eating, balanced meals? Am I deficient in something? And the body doesn't lie. It shows up on the body when it continues and you continue to ignore it. So
right.
It's really interesting that you were able to take your ailment and turn it into something empowering for you, and then turn it around and be able to share this knowledge and wisdom with other people and pursue it and take it to the level at where you're at now, where you can confidently say that I've been through this.
Yes.
I know how to help you or to support you in your path to getting to where you'd like to be in your health.
Right.
And I think as practitioners, I was talking about it earlier today when I was talking about these ladies for starting a yoga program, that, it's a different field of, it's not how in the past when I was doing my other day job, it's kind of like the metrics is different. It's an ongoing work in progress.
Right.
It's not a project that you can complete and finish and you're done and over with. It's something that you're continuously having to maintain and investigate.
Yeah.
Because the body changes.
The body changes depending on
the environment changes, the stress level changes.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to see that the path where you started and how you evolutionized yourself and morphed yourself into where you are today with feeling and understanding yourself through the skin, through the nutrition, the digestion, and even the intuition part. I mean, it doesn't all come from books.
No.
It doesn't all come from teachers, and it comes from, end of the day, it comes from how you're really treating yourself. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's such a beautiful thing. So in taking it now to how did you apply some of these methods and start to adapt some of these methods into your daily living? So let's look at it from the perspective of nutrition and when you're preparing a dish, and obviously the cooking, and I've tasted your food, it was wonderful.
Thank you.
What goes into preparing a dish for you? Does it start with an inspiration? Does it start with a craving? Does it start with you know, oh, what season is this, or what did I see in the grocery store? How does it start for you, the process of what you decide to cook in your lifestyle? And
well, I'm pretty loose with it. I'm not someone who does like meal planning for the week, because it's very much about my mood. You know, it's about my mood, it's about the weather, it's about how much time I have, it's about what's going on with the family, you know, it's about our state of health. So like if one of us is sick, then I will probably make some kind of soup, you know? So it kind of just really depends on what's happening with us at any given moment. I mean, I'm always basing my meals around like, okay, I gotta make sure I have my protein to keep our blood sugar balanced, and I also personally require a lot of protein. That's just my body. I need it for energy, I need it to keep my blood sugar balanced, and I need it for a really positive, balanced, uplifted mood. I start to feel very sad and depressed and cranky when I don't get enough high quality protein. So there's certain elements that have to go in there. You know, there has to be delicious vegetables, and you know, through that we get all the micronutrients, and we get all the fiber that we need. And then it has to be delicious too. And I have to feel like eating it, right? So again, it kind of goes back to my mood. And then a lot of times it has to do with what we have in the house. Because, you know, I'm a working mother. By the time I finish work, I pick up the kids, we get home, it's usually anywhere between 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. And we like to eat on the earlier side. You know, by that time, like, I wish that dinner was already made, but it's often not. So I'm very dependent upon my Instant Pot, you know, and I keep protein in the freezer, so we eat high quality animal protein. That's what works best for mostly everyone in my family. So I just try to keep stuff in the freezer. You know, we try to make sure we always have garlic, we always have ginger, we always have onions and carrots and celery in the fridge, and then we'll have some like rotating vegetables. My 6-year-old loves cucumbers, so we always have cucumbers, and you know, for his vegetable he might just eat an entire cucumber, you know, and that's fine. So we and yeah, when I'm at the store, I try to buy whatever looks fresh, and whatever kind of speaks to me. So yeah, that's how I kind of assemble my meals. I make up recipes all the time. You know, I have my whole recipe blog. And I don't tend to follow other people's recipes. Sometimes I do. It's not because I don't want to, it's just because the way that I eat, the way that I cook is very intuitive, and it really has to do with what's available. Right?
Right,
Yeah.
yes. I think cooking is a very intuitive thing. It's what, like you said, what the mood and the feeling that you're having at that time, and I think a lot of expression of who we are gets expressed out into the external world through the things that we craft. And for you, it's crafting the food and making and providing this nutritious meal for your family.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's one solid formula, you know, but there are maybe some handy tips that people can do in every day to start to apply some of the nutritious methods like you were doing, like your Instant Pot, and then you have things in the freezer, and then you have your staples with the garlic and the ginger that you know needs to happen. And I also agree with everyone being such an individual. That there's a different degree of how much protein one person might need and another person might need. I just read this article about wheat, you know, and processed wheats are not very good.
Right.
But there's also the quality wheats, and there is an enzyme producing element in there that helps to support the digestion.
Right.
So a lot of times people will see these articles and say wheat is no good, and it just gets destroyed across the articles, and people start believing like, okay, this is not good, that's not good, and they start taking on these blanket statements like it's true for them,
right,
when they're not even paying attention to that internal body and internal self, and really asking themselves like, how do you feel?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So I think it's important, I mean, the first step to crafting a healthy meal is really knowing what works for you, right? And what works for your family. So like in my family, there's 4 of us, me, my husband, and our 2 boys. And one of my sons, he loves chicken, and he loves chicken soup, everything chicken. And that's his, like, that's what he wants to eat at the end of the day, because he also doesn't like to eat very much protein until dinner. So we call him a snake. He eats like a snake. He just like eats everything at dinner time in terms of like his protein, which he needs. He needs whatever his protein's gonna be. He needs that to grow and to be strong. But then my 9-year-old really doesn't love chicken that much. He would much rather have chickpeas or black beans. So what we do, like what I like to do, and my husband is good at making stuff in the Instant Pot too, because I've taught him some things. I make a chicken curry, and I kind of make like a variation of it, just depending on what I have in the house. And so, there's always the garlic and the ginger and the onions, and I'll put carrots in there. So I like to sneak vegetables into the base of the curry. And so that's a good tip for people who have picky eaters in the family, whether they're kids or not. Or if you just want a way to get more vegetables into your diet, is you can sneak vegetables into the bases of your soups and your stews and your curries. And so what I do is I put all of that stuff into the blender. So I put the tomatoes in there too, and some coconut milk and carrots, and I put like red bell pepper, and the garlic and ginger and onion, and then that turns into this very smooth sauce base.
And the flavors blend.
And they blend, and you don't have to chop, right? So it really helps with like time and ease. Like you don't have to be a good cook to eat good food. And then we put that into the Instant Pot. I add the spices. Usually it's turmeric and cumin and coriander. I keep it simple. I mean, for us, that's simple. And sometimes some smoked paprika, and some Himalayan pink salt. And I put that all in there. I put in some chicken thighs, and often it's frozen, because it's very last minute a lot of times. And then when I am serving my sons, I'll give my 6-year-old more chicken, and then I'll give my 9-year-old more sauce, and I'll just put in some garbanzo beans for him. And so that's an easy way to sort of honor the individual preferences within the family, but not make it this difficult thing where you feel like you're making 3 different meals every day, or everyone's being really picky. It's more like reframing it and just saying like, okay, instead of them thinking of them as being picky, they have preferences, right? And so to honor those preferences, because that's also giving you information about what their body needs. Now, if they're preferring sugar, that's a whole other story, right? But if my son is really craving beans, there's nothing wrong with that. Right?
Yeah.
So that's an example of kind of like what we do, and just kind of makes it easy. And then we put some vegetables on the table, and we don't force anyone to eat anything, but you at least have to try it, or at least make some kind of effort. Yeah.
Right. I think when you talked about pureeing the vegetables and putting in there, and it made me think about sometimes when I go to the Chinese restaurants and we order the vegetable dish, and there was no thought or time put into chopping up the vegetables. It's usually these large chunks of vegetables, and I just get so turned off, because all I taste is, it's like eating something separately, and they put it all together in a blended, like a fried rice or a noodle dish, and And I get a little bit upset because I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be like a blended dish, and it's
Right.
supposed to all complement each other, yet I'm tasting each thing individually, and it's not cohesive, so I feel like there's no thought and
Right.
intention that was put behind it
Right.
with love. And
Yeah.
it makes a difference when you have this intention behind it too. That's
Sure.
and it's like, okay, I was just another number on that order list, and it was just served to me and quick, and it's like the bell pepper was just chopped in half, and that's it. And you know,
Yes, I can
get
picture
so
that
upset.
in my mind.
I get so upset.
And they're such big
Right.
pieces, and they're not cooked very much. And
They're not sauteed well.
yeah,
They're
some
not.
people
it's
like
just-
that, but yeah, there is that, like you said, there's that lack of like intention and love, and I might be doing things quickly, but I'm preparing something that I know everyone is going to like. I mean, sometimes my 6-year-old decides like I don't like that anymore, and that's fine. That's his prerogative. But it's nice to sort of do that, and then also because my family is my family is East Indian, and it's a way to also honor my heritage and to honor my mom and my grandmother who taught me how to cook. Just by watching them and being in the kitchen with them. And so for me, it's nice. It's like I'm like the Indian mom now, and I'm doing that for my kids, and I love that they love to eat the food of my people,
Right.
But I do it in a way that it's easy, it's simple, it's not, I'm not sauteing onions over the stovetop for 20 minutes. I do that for, on occasions when I actually have the time. But for everyday meals, there isn't always that much time. Or when it's super hot here, like it is for, at least 4 months out of the year, I don't want to be a slave to the stove.
Right.
Right.
And then it's not good for the skin too. All of
it's
that
just like
coming into the skin and
yeah, and it's just I just get
Right.
hot and exhausted, and then so it's nice to have these meals that you can make that you pretty much know everyone's gonna like, and it doesn't take a ton of effort, but man, it's healthy. There's so much good stuff in that curry sauce. And you can make that curry sauce, and you can add tofu to it, you can add beans, you can add lentils, you can just do it with vegetables, so I really like those types of recipes.
Yeah, so there's this so we start off with the evolution of how you came to where you're at and how you apply it now to your everyday life, and the intention that goes behind it, the love, and individualizing it for your family and for your lifestyle too, and building it in. So it's like this natural progression of just following your path almost. And it's interesting. I feel like every time we come across what we might think of as a challenge or an obstacle, for you it was your skin, and for you it was health ailments that came up that led you all to be the person that you are today. And I think that a lot of times people look at their path and their journey and think of some of these obstacles as setbacks or things, but I feel that sometimes the challenges and the obstacles bring about new growth and higher wisdom, because you've struggled through it, so you've felt it, you've gone to the depths of what it feels like.
Yes.
And then you've risen back up from it. So
yes.
And then you're able to find your passion, discover your passion from it, and then make something from it.
Right.
So where you're at now, for someone that's looking to maybe shift their life into better their health through nutrition, because maybe they feel like they don't have enough energy, they have brain fog, something's not working, their body's breaking down. How would you start off or give them advice? Is there any tips that you would recommend that they would start off, or advice to how do they start that journey for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, if they just want to do things on their own at home, I mean, there's some simple things that you can do. I think, first of all, if you just have no idea what works for you and what doesn't work for you, that's okay. You don't have to try to figure that out right now. I don't always recommend like focusing on the bad stuff, like what you can't eat. I would say instead, just add in more of the good stuff. So just start with vegetables, you know, and they can be simply prepared. You can just steam some broccoli. You can lightly saute some kale or some spinach or whatever the vegetable is that you like. If you're like my 6-year-old and you just like cucumbers, add in some more cucumbers. Because as you add in those health promoting foods, and I start with vegetables because I feel like there's, first of all, you know, plant foods really are the foundation of a good diet, and then you add in the other stuff, whatever kind of protein works for you, whatever kind of healthy fats work for you, and whatever fruits you like. But the more vegetables we can eat, the more nutrients we're gonna get, the more fiber we're gonna get. They're very nourishing, especially if you prepare them in a way that works for you. So again, if you don't know what works for you, that's okay. Think about what you like. And again, I'm not talking about like ice cream and junk and sugar and stuff like that, but think about whatever.
Something that's natural that you like.
Yeah, think about like some health promoting foods. Just think of some vegetables that you like. Or if you eat zero fruit, think about fruit that you like. And so when you bring in, the more good stuff you bring in, the more the bad stuff is naturally crowded out. And so before you know it, you're eating so much good, healthy food that you don't have space for the bad stuff anymore. And the more of the health promoting foods you're eating, the less cravings you're gonna have for the junk. I also really recommend keeping your blood sugar balanced. It's so important. When we don't get enough protein and we don't get enough fiber, then we end up feeling hungry, we have cravings, our mood can be all over the place, we feel fatigued. And so that can come in two ways. Either you're not eating enough or you're not getting enough protein, or you're eating a bunch of sugar. Because when you eat so much sugar, your blood sugar goes up and then it crashes. And then that's when you really get the cravings and you need more, right?
It's like an addictive drug.
I mean, it is. It is.
Yes.
It's more addictive than cocaine. Sugar is. So a really simple tip is that you take your plate, so however big your plate is, divide it in half, fill half of it with above ground vegetables. So that's like leafy greens, and then like zucchini and broccoli and cauliflower, cucumber, red bell pepper. So any above ground vegetables. And it doesn't have to be raw. It can be cooked or it can be raw, whatever you like, depending on the time of year, depending on what's in season. And again, you don't have to overthink it. If you just go to the store and get a box of pre-washed lettuce greens or salad greens, and that's the best you can do, that's fine. I mean, that's, you know, we always have that in our fridge. So that's a half of your plate. That's an entire half. And then a quarter of your plate is going to be your protein. So that can be high quality animal protein, fish, chicken, beef, turkey, eggs, or you can do plant protein. So tofu, lentils, beans, and then the other quarter of your plate will be your starch. And I'm not talking about like 2 scoops of rice. That's too much. More like half a cup to maybe a full cup of whole grains or root vegetables. And so if you eat a balanced plate, and I call it a balanced plate, and then you want to add some healthy fats on top of that too. So that could be like extra virgin olive oil for your salad dressing, or it could be, you know, a little handful of nuts or seeds or something like that, or avocado. It's perfect fat. If you just focus on eating a balanced plate for all of your meals, you will start to feel better.
Yes, I believe that.
I mean, it really goes back to the basics. And if that feels complicated to you, you know, it's as simple as like a piece of chicken, some steamed broccoli, and some brown rice. And it doesn't have to be fancy, you know, or it could be some tofu.
Very practical.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be plant protein or animal protein. And if you're getting overwhelmed by, oh, it should be organic, or I have to go to Whole Foods and buy like the fancy meat or whatever. Yeah, quality does matter, but for now, just start with the basics. Don't overwhelm yourself. Do whatever you feel capable of doing. And then as you start to feel better, you will have more capacity to kind of tweak things and change things.
Nice. So my takeaway from this is be real with yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yes. Keep it simple.
Yes. Keep it very simple for yourself, and let the progress be incremental.
Yeah. So go with the low-hanging fruit. Yeah. Whatever that low-hanging fruit is for you. If you don't drink enough water, if you don't drink any water, start with drinking some water.
Yeah, the smaller incremental steps, the baby steps to get yourself there. Because I know that in the Ayurvedic meal or the Indian meal, there are 6 tastes, and if you have the 6 tastes in that meal, and I've had this a few times, and it's well balanced and prepared by a really good chef with good intentions, or someone that really puts love in it, you're so satisfied.
Yeah.
You do not crave snacks.
Yep.
You feel better. You don't feel lethargic after the meal. You still feel like you don't get that, what we call in Hawaii, the kanak attack.
Right.
You feel good.
Yeah.
And then 4 hours later, then you're hungry again. But I haven't even, when I had a meal like that, I didn't even think about snack. I didn't even think about, until 4 hours later when I started to get hungry again, and I didn't feel tired. And I really believe that in a balanced meal, if you're very conscious of putting together a very simple balanced meal that satisfy all of what the body needs, the body's like, okay, that's enough.
Yep.
I'm done.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like when you have something very salty, all of a sudden you need something sweet to balance it.
Right.
And that's because you just moved the pendulum over too far to the salty side. So now you need something sweet. So you're doing this. But if you come to the table with that plate that has all of those to satisfy the taste buds, the cravings, what the body is looking for, it's about
balance.
That harmony. It's really common sense when you think about it.
It is common sense, and that's why I like to start with that balanced plate, because you can make it as fancy or as simple as you would like, and people don't realize it really is about the basics. So it's a really foolproof way. If you eat that way, you will have balanced blood sugar, and when you have balanced blood sugar, you have less cravings, you have more energy, your mood is way better, everything just starts to feel a little bit easier throughout the day. Yeah.
And I just want to talk about that one ingredient that is about that's not seeable on your plate. It's that preparation.
Yeah.
That's not seeable through the naked eye, but it's felt when you eat the food.
The intention.
The intention, who prepared your food, what type of energy gets puts into the food. How do you go through this kind of a process when you're starting to prepare food, for your family and your kids? Say you come home and you're tired, or you had a long day, or maybe you had a little bit of a challenging day, and now you need to prepare food. It's something that,
well, for me, because it is such a creative outlet, and it's also such a necessity, like some people say, I just can have a bowl of cereal for dinner and I'm good. That is not me. That is not my family. We all need a balanced meal. And because I'm so tuned into the moods of my family members also, like I see it. It's just, it's what I do, right? So, no matter how tired we are, no matter how stressed we are, no matter how stressed I am, even just being able to put together that simple meal, it actually is stress relieving, because it's also part of my responsibility. It's also my husband's responsibility to make sure that we're nourishing our children. And then I just know that, like, if I eat this balanced meal, as simple as it might be, I'm gonna feel a whole lot better.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it looked like I look to it sort of as a refuge almost from the day.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you know, we love to eat. And then, you know, you can make a really simple meal, but if you have some like yummy like kimchi or like sauerkraut, or, you know, I love to put cilantro on everything, or some kind of yummy like homemade dressing. You know, it's nice. You can dress up the plate that way, and you get these flavors, and you know, it brings life back to my body, to my soul, and then it's a way for us to come together. And you know, if there's just no time to cook, then we'll do takeout. And instead of feeling upset about it and thinking like, oh, I should be preparing this healthy meal for my family and I'm not, you know, we just sort of you just have to reframe it, right? Like, I'm thankful that we have this takeout option, and, you know, we're choosing the things that are sort of like the healthier options. You know, I'm not gonna like eat a bunch of just rice or whatever. But then it's also an opportunity to have like some food that we don't normally have. So, you know, it's just, I think because I am a foodie, and because food has healed me and it continues to support and heal me, yeah, I might feel annoyed that I have to make dinner, but I always know that I'm gonna feel a lot better once I eat that food, you know.
Nice. That's beautifully said.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think that's, you know, just hearing you talk, it's so inspiring to get people to fall in love with self-care through food, through the nourishment.
Yes.
Finding refuge, finding nourishment, finding restoration in giving yourself the foods that you enjoy, the foods that you love, and doing it in a balanced way without overindulging, having those boundaries and parameters to treat yourself in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way of, you know, providing self-respect, right? It's self-respect, it's self-love, and every time you eat, you know, it's an opportunity to make a choice for yourself. And that's not to say that like you can't indulge in some sweets and some like, you know, yummy desserts, or, you know, like this, you know, a big celebratory meal, or even if you just have an off day and you just end up eating a bunch of chocolate. That's okay too, you know, but there's always an opportunity to sort of course correct and come back to whatever it is that you feel you want to do for yourself. Yeah, but yeah, it's self-care, and self-care doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to go to a spa or, you know, do anything big. Self-care is as simple for me as, you know, making sure I drink enough water and eat enough greens during the day, because it makes a big difference about how I feel.
And sometimes it's that compassion for yourself where like, okay, I need to eat a box of chocolates today.
And that's totally fine.
Yeah, and just knowing that, okay, this is what I need for myself today, and then maybe tomorrow.
Then I'm gonna move on.
Move past this. Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been so inspirational.
Yeah,
and
thank you, Joelle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I always love talking with you.